Greetings, TCG Wolf here, and today we're doing something that I normally don't tend to do, but I kind of wanted to throw together because I want to give love to my favorite deck of all time. You also get the TCG Wolf hands for once. For those that, are watching me for the first time, you probably don't know what that means, but you get to see them very rarely. Today, I'm going to show you my version of the Madolche deck for the I believe it's still the October 2021 ban list, and you know what? I have a severe doubt anything in this deck is going to be hit by the new ban list, but I still think that this deck is worth considering because it is not only not that expensive, with a few exceptions, but it also manages to catch a lot of the metagame off guard by just how good it is at performing OTKs. Now, for those that don't want to listen to me rabble and talk about the deck, there is a full deck list down in the description, down there somewhere. You can just take the deck list from there and do what you want with it. For those that want to learn how the deck works, I'm also going to go through a very basic going second combo once I'm done with the deck profile. Let's start off with the main deck, shall we, where we're taking a look at the entire Madolche package first. The Madolche package contains some very staple cards that most Madolche decks run. We play 3 Petingcessoeur and 1 Puddingcess. This is your best starter in the entire deck, and you can perform a full combo just off of one of these alone. Puddingcess we are forced to play because it's required for the material of some of the other cards in the deck. We are then playing the remaining starters, which would be Madolche Magileine, also a 3 of. It, when normal summoned, searches us another Madolche, which most often than not will search us Petingcessoeur. We're then playing 3 Madolche Anjelly. Anjelly can tribute itself in order to special summon another Madolche to the field, normally being Hootcake. Hootcake is able to banish a monster from the graveyard in order to special summon another Madolche from the deck, which normally is Messengelato. It should also be noted that Anjelly can special summon Petingcessoeur to trigger Petingcessoeur's effect to summon Puddingcess from the deck. This is the best alternative way if we're going second and we end up with a monster already in the graveyard, or our Puddingcessoeur effect to special summon from hand gets negated for any reason. We could normal summon an Anjelly and get out of it that way. These are the only Madolche monsters you are going to need to play in the deck, and they facilitate most, if not all, of your OTK potential. At least, usually. For our spells and traps concerning Madolche, we're playing 3 Madolche Salon, which is probably the only expensive card in the deck, really. This deck enables the entire deck to function. Madolche Salon allows you to normal summon 1 extra Madolche monster per turn, and if a Madolche card is returned from your hand or deck, which is, their mechanic, you get to set a Madolche spell trap onto the field. Of those, we only have a couple extras. We've got a Madolche Ticket. Ticket does exactly the same thing as Salon does, not giving you a special summon, but when something is returned to the deck, you get to either add a Madolche to hand or special summon a Madolche monster if you already control the Madolche monster. This thing's insane, so normally if we have Salon, we will search Ticket, we will activate Ticket, and then the next time trigger Ticket to special summon another dude. Then running 1 Madolche Chateau, which is their field spell. The field spell gives all Madolche monsters 500 attack and defense, which is incredibly important for the OTK, but also if a Madolche is ever returned from the graveyard to the deck, we can choose to put it in our hand instead. And lastly, 1 Madolche Promenade, which is just a face-up card negate by returning a Madolche monster from the graveyard or field to our hand. But hey, that is the Madolche core. This is all of the cards you need to play in a Madolche deck. The rest of it is completely up to you. I have included, and I will say this, we are playing 3 Pot of Extravagance. Realistically speaking, a lot of people choose to play Prosperity instead, and I don't get why. Prosperity cuts the damage you're about to deal in half, meaning it's only good for going first, which is an innate weakness of this deck anyway, because if you're going first in Madolche, you're probably not winning. Pot of Extravagance is definitely the way to go, and we have reflected that in our extra deck, as you will see later on. In addition to that, we're playing 1 Called by the Grave. This deck is incredibly weak to hand traps. You are gonna need this, big boy. If you get Ash Blossom during your combo, you're not going very far, so Called by is an absolute must. In addition to that, we are playing an absolute lieu of hand traps. We're playing 3 PSY-Frame Gamma and, the accompanying driver, because you need him. What we're attempting to do in the deck is going second and having none of our cards end up in our graveyard, monsters specifically. Gamma's great for this reason because it both acts as a very strong negation tool and banishes itself when the turn is over, meaning we have nothing in the graveyard. Then, we are also going to be playing 3 Nibiru the Primal Being. Nibiru is the strongest hand trap we have by far. we want to OTK. If we can blow up our opponent's entire board before our turn has even begun, it's definitely worth playing. Nibiru is an absolute must in this deck, which price varies, I would guess, but that is not interchangeable. We are then playing a card that's now budget, thankfully, Infinite Impermanence. This card is the perfect hand trap for us. It's not a monster, so we don't care about it going to the graveyard. It negates anything on field and stops combos like a madman, and it's a useful card that we can set in case we didn't need to use it to actually continue using it on the third turn if there is one. Then, the Spice. What makes my Madolche list different from anyone else's? Normally, you would play even more hand traps, or you'd play some going second tools like Lightning Storm, Forbidden Droplets. I ain't got that kind of money to spend. Instead, we are going for the ultimate Unga Bunga. We are running 3 Alpha the Master of Beasts. This card, going second, is still crazy, and it catches so many people off guard in the current metagame. Of course, Alpha lets you special summon it if your opponent has a higher attack value total on the board than you do. You can then activate its effect to bounce it back to your hand and bounce a card your opponent controls. Then, if they still have more attack than we do, we can special summon him again. The bounce effect, unfortunately, is a hard once per turn, but just being able to have 3,000 extra damage on the board for an OTK deck is incredibly good, as well as it acts as removal. 3 Alpha is definitely good, because what we are also playing is a setup of Kaijus. We're playing 2 Gadarla, 2 Gameciel, 2 Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. This card catches a lot of people off guard. Not only then, say in a good hand, or a bad hand, we'd be able to Kaiju our opponent's monster, giving them something like a Gameciel, you name yours, special summon Alpha because they have a higher attack total on the board than us, bounce Alpha and the Kaiju back to our hand, Kaiju another monster our opponent controls, special summoning back Alpha again. This is a 2-card removal and still gives us the winning edge. Not only that, of course, but Kaiju Slumber literally blows up every monster on the board, allowing us to do the same thing again by instead summoning us a Gameciel and our opponent a Gadarla. They still have a higher attack total than we do, meaning we can special summon Alpha to the field, bounce the Gadarla, and now we also have a Gameciel to our name. This sort of playmaking potential is perfect for a deck going second. I'm also pulling away the playmat. Look at me being professional. This sort of playmaking that they have is absolutely astounding, but the Madolches by themselves can do this. This is just an extension package. You could literally run almost anything to accompany this, but I feel like this specifically does a very good job of fulfilling things that Madolches are generally bad at, which is removing monsters without having to activate their own effects. Now, with that out of the way, the extra deck is going to be incredibly easy for this deck because there is only one way of building it. There are only 4 current extra deck monsters for Madolches, so we're playing a 3-of of all of them. 3 Glassouffle, which can protect a monster from all activated effects except its own, but more importantly, can send a Madolche to the graveyard when we need it to be there. 3 of the best card in the deck, Queen Tiaramisu. Tiaramisu can detach a material from itself, then target up to 2 Madolche cards in our graveyard, return them to the deck in order to non-target, return 2 cards on the field to the deck. This is insane. Also, this is a soft once per turn, meaning if you can summon it more than once, you can do it more than once. Then, the last girl, we got Madolche Puddingcess, Chocolat-a-la-Mode. Wow, I said that way weird. Chocolat-a-la-Mode, let's just say that, chalky. Simply put, this card, when it is attached with a Puddingcess from our deck, let's just really quick go through it and find it here. There it is. When it has Puddingcess as material, as soon as a Madolche monster is returned to the deck, we can special summon another Madolche from our deck. Incredibly, incredibly good, and is freaking important for the OTK. Then we're also running 3 Sistart. You could arguably run 2, because this card only really comes up in order to fill your graveyard with Madolches, and it's rare that you're going to banish all 3 of them. Then we have 3 fill slots. We're running 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Knightmare Unicorn, and a Zeus. Normally speaking, we will be locked into Madolches when we activate the effects of Madolches, which locks us out of making Zeus. But for turns 3 and possibly 4, Zeus could be an incredibly important asset that allows us to just win games. Now, for the side deck, I tend to have a tendency, that is redundant, to say go with whatever your meta needs you to have. There is no way for me to tell you what a good side deck is, because your meta is so relevant as to what they are playing. You know, if people are playing Tenyi Sword Soul currently, you need to run token, whatever they're called. token collectors. If they're running a lot of spell traps, you probably want to run back row removal. There's too many options for me to mention to say, hey, this is the way you should play it. So I'm just going to give you a couple of suggestions of what you could include in your side deck. Back row removal is always important, and Harpy's Feather Duster happens to be one of the best one of those. You should probably include this. You could even run it main deck if your metagame is super reliant on back row, but this is definitely a choice. Another one is Pankratops. You are playing a hard-going second deck, and Pankratops is one of the best cards for going second. Special summon it, pop an important card, or just get more damage onto the board. More back row removal. Cosmic Cyclone is also incredibly good in this deck. We don't care about our own life total. We want to win on turn 2. This can help out things like Mystic Mine, which are just terrible. For grindier games, where you are unfortunately stuck grinding, Gozen Match is a surprisingly good card for Madolches. All of your monsters are Earth, not counting the Kaijus. This thing can prevent your opponent, in a lot of decks at the very least, from doing just about anything, and you will not care at all. It is marvelous. Speaking of which, for Tenyi Sword Soul matchups, you have Token Collector. Just a really good card that sort of shuts down their play altogether. You should definitely consider this if you're having issues with Tenyi Sword Soul. Another really good card to consider is Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More, of course, lets you break through incredibly hard negation boards, and if your metagame is full of, I don't know, Dragon Link, let's say, Dark Ruler No More is an absolute must because it allows you to break through the board and then setting up something like a Gozen Matchlock on turn 2. Another hand trap that is definitely worth considering is Ghost, Bell, and Haunted Mansion. This deck has an innate weakness to DPE, which is a very strong card in the current format. This allows you to put a stop to that immediately, hopefully without ending your game in the process. And the last card, realistically, that I'd say up for consideration that is not incredibly expensive, Imperial Order. The reason for this is, again, we never want to go first, and you may look at yourself going, why the hell are you recommending Imperial Order then? This is for the times when we know our opponent is going to force us to go first. If we're playing up against an opponent that actually know what Madolches do, they know we want to go second, and they know we want to avoid going first like the plague. Imperial Order can catch them off guard as we suddenly go first, set 4, then flip open Imperial Order when they attempt to do something, and this can actually win us games just by itself. Now, I'm going to shuffle this deck together for a little bit, and I'll show you a full combo with Madolches. Alright, deck has been shuffled. Let's draw our 5. We are also simulating going second, so of course, we will be using any hand traps available to try and stop our opponent. Our hand is not looking terribly great, but because we drew an Infinite Impermanence, we will assume that this has already been used and has ended up in the graveyard. We will then draw our card for going second, and this just became a lot better. Presumably, our opponent has somewhat been stopped by this Infinite Impermanence, so let's say we're going to have to play around a single negate, shall we? We are going to go ahead and we're going to activate the uninterrupted Kaiju Slumber. The interrupted Kaiju Slumber. We are interrupting them. Presumably, considering they have a board state, they'll want to negate this, so let's assume it's been negated. Unfortunate, but doesn't matter to us. We will go ahead and we will special summon our Madolche Petingcessoeur from our hand, doing the same thing as before, but now special summoning the Puddingcess from hand, because unfortunately, we drew into it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to overlay them, of course, for the one, the only, Glassouffle. Activating Glassouffle effect, again, being careful not to detach the Puddingcess in order to send it to the graveyard, not activating its second effect. Then, we are going to go ahead and do the usual, overlaying it for AA-ZEUS, activating AA-ZEUS effect to shuffle this back into the deck. When it's been shuffled back into the deck, we're going to trigger AA-ZEUS, getting rid of the Glassouffle, in order to special summon ourselves a Hootcake. Remember that this effect of Chocolat-a-la-Mode can only be activated if it has Puddingcess as a material, which is why it's important. We'll go for the Hootcake. Hootcake here is going to banish the Tiaramisu, which is then going to get us the Messengelato. Now, Messengelato's effect is going to trigger, and because we have plenty of fuel in our hand, and we have yet to normal summon, we are actually going to search out Madolche Salon using its effect. When we do so, we are of course going to activate Madolche Salon, now allowing us to get 2 summons. We're then going to normal summon Madolche Magileine, triggering its effect to search our deck for any Madolche card. We are going to search out Anjelly. In doing this, we are then going to go right ahead and we go to normal summon that Anjelly, using its effect to tribute itself in order to special summon another Madolche from the deck. With this one, we are going to special summon our second copy of Messengelato. Little cool fact about this, Messengelato is not a once per turn, meaning we can yet again search our deck for a spell card with Madolche in the name. We will search Chateau. This is enough to perform the OTK, and you will see just how in a moment. We're going to overlay both the Messengelatos for the best card in the deck, Queen Tiaramisu. We are then going to link summon with these two cards to bring out our old friend, Sistart. Now, we're going to activate Queen Tiaramisu's effect, detaching one, and then choosing any two Madolche cards in our graveyard. We'll take Hootcake and Messengelato, shuffle them back into the deck to non-target return 2 cards from the field to the deck. Necessarily speaking, this will get rid of anything that's currently in the way. Now, when we've done that, we're going to go ahead and we are just going to overlay a Chocolat-a-la-Mode on top of the Tiaramisu. And with that, we are just going to go ahead and we're going to activate Chateau. Chateau is going to shuffle any cards back into the deck. This is going to trigger Chocolat-a-la-Mode once again to special summon literally any card we want. Let's just summon a Magileine at this point because it will not matter. We will shuffle back everything named Madolche, which is 2 cards for us currently. Back they go. And on board currently, we've got 2,000, 3,000, 3,000, and 1,900, which is way more than enough to perform an OTK. We also spun back 2 cards our opponent controlled and played through 1 negate because we had this available. Was it easy? No. But can you learn it? Absolutely. We also have 1 card left in our hand that could have been a hand trap, which in our case happened to be another Petingcessoeur. But you can see that this OTK is very consistent, and if it gets off its ground, it's going to succeed every time. Where our weakness is? Being hand trapped. We really hate it. In this case, if we got hand trapped even once during this combo, we were not doing the combo anymore. It's an incredibly fun deck with some innate weaknesses, but I seriously hope that you all give this deck a go. The deck is, of course, as I said, available in the description below in case you want to give it a go from yourself on an online simulator, or if you just want to purchase the deck for yourselves. If you wish to do that, then, you know, go ahead and do it. I am not going to stop you. But do feel free to experiment with this build. I really enjoy it, it's quite fun, and it has some serious ground potential. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, and would like to see more deck profiles in this style, because I do own quite a few trading cards, do feel free to leave a comment down below and tell me what deck I should do next. As always, remember to stay safe out there.